All right. Well, I think our our candidates and our moderator are assembled, so we'll begin and let people filter in as they filter in. Welcome to the first Franklin Food and Farm Candidate Forum in West County. My name is Andrew Baker, and I am one of the popcorn makers here at the Shelburne Falls Theater. I'm pleased that all of you and all three candidates for the first Franklin state rep seat are here tonight and can all get to know each other better and get your questions addressed. It has been quite a project finding a date and time to get all three candidates to West County, so I want to thank Maya Winfrey, who is one of our Shelburne assessors and a school committee rep. There she is, selling the popcorn. And she's also my daughter, full disclosure, for her persistent digital herding. I also want to thank Jim Kessler, who is right here to my right, and the Memorial Hall Association for offering the theater as our meeting site at no charge. Please do drop a donation in the bucket to help pay for the air conditioning on your way out if you haven't already done so on the way in. A few small housekeeping details. If you have not been here before, the bathrooms are downstairs in the hallway. There is popcorn available and other concessions in the booth while supplies last. Your donations help support the theater. This event is co-sponsored locally by the Memorial Hall Association and by the Two-Town News. I will now turn the mic over to Jennifer Kaur, Director of CISA, and she will introduce the candidates, our moderator, and the four Food and Farm co-sponsors. Thanks again for coming to the forum.
Welcome. Thank you all for being here tonight. Thank you, Andrew. I'm Jennifer Kaur. I'm the Executive Director of CISA, Community Involved in Sustaining Agriculture. And together with our co-sponsors, the Food Bank of Western Massachusetts, the Franklin Land Trust, Stone Soup Cafe, and the Memorial Hall Association, we're pretty excited to spend some time together tonight talking about farms and food. The First Franklin District in many ways represents a very agrarian community. We have some of the most concentrated farmland resources in the state. Together, across Franklin County, we support 730 local farms, and yet almost 50% of our population experiences food insecurity to some degree or another. We have benefited from pretty champion representation for decades, representation that has been attentive to landscape protection, farm viability, as well as food justice. So whether you're a farmer or not, we are, each one of us, eaters. So to have some time talking with our candidates about these issues feels like a pretty critical opportunity for us. So thanks for joining us. We are going to take a very, and I mean very, brief break, about a little over halfway through our time together, after which point we're going to move into audience questions. So it's really important, those audience questions are going to get asked by the moderator. So it's important that you write your questions down on the note cards that you might have picked up already or are still available at the table in the back, and get those to Laura and Emily, who is somewhere, during that break. Great. So now I'm going to introduce to you our moderator for this evening, Monte Belmonte. He knows a thing or two about farms, fighting hunger, and our food system. Monte is, of course, one of the co-hosts of the Fabulous 413, a daily show on NEPM, really focused on sort of all things Western Mass. He also drives a pretty extraordinary fundraising and public awareness through his participation in the annual March for the Food Bank of Western Massachusetts. Monte has been, Monte has been asking questions, and in doing so, really knitting together our community for some time now. I really can't think of anyone more well suited to facilitate our forum tonight. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to you, Monte.
There we go. There's the dulcet radio tones. I'm really honored to have been asked to do this by so many organizations that I have wonderful relationships with and that have done a lot of work with in the past. I'm also a proud resident for the last 24 years of the 1st Franklin District, so I am a voter and I'm as eager to hear from the candidates as you are. The only difference here is I did not come up with any of these questions. Other people did. I will only be reading the questions. So if we don't get to something that you want to hear about through the course of this conversation, that's when you'll have the opportunity to write them down on those note cards. And then the organizers will sift through them during the second half, and some of them will be asked in the second half of the program. So without further ado, we're going to hear, in alphabetical order by first name, a 2-minute opening remark from each candidate. I will also say I am not the one who is keeping the time, so don't blame me, candidates, when they cut you off. But I will have their back if you do not listen to the timekeeper. Did my mic die again? Or what happened here? Yeah, it clipped out. Luckily, I can project. I also want to give a round of applause to Memorial Hall as somebody who helps run a nonprofit theater in Franklin County. This is not easy. And having a community space offered up for free for things just like this is incredible. We're really lucky to have this as a resource here in West County. All right, so 2-minute statements. We'll start out first with Amy.
Hello. Where's the sound guy?
There we go.
Oh. Test 1, 2, 3.
There we go.
Yes. If your name is Mike, please stand. No, I'm just kidding. My name is Amy LaValle. I am the town clerk in the town of Whately. I am a 4th-generation Whately resident. I am the town clerk. I work in the library. I am also on the school committee for Franklin County Technical School. I was born and pretty much raised in Whately. My 3 boys have gone to the public schools here. Things that are relevant to this evening, my husband and I have a small homestead farm that we typically grow vegetables, fruits, and flowers, and we have chickens and pigs and goats and sheep and all sorts of stuff. I was one of the founding people for our open pantry in town and also helped start an initiative in town called the Whately Giving Garden, which pairs local farmers with residents who may need a little extra food. So we get fresh produce from our farmers every other week, and we have it available for people free of charge. I want to thank Shelburne and everybody here in the audience for being here tonight, and that's my spiel.
Next up is Corinne.
Can you hear me?
How about now? Testing.
Oh, there's feedback.
Guys, it was me.
Oh, there it
I'm
is.
sorry. Hi, everyone. My name is Corinne Coriat. I'm so thrilled to be here with you tonight. I was just telling my husband on the way here that this is not my first time on stage at Memorial Hall. I performed here at age 12 in my American Roots band, tandem banjo style with my best friend, which means she was doing the chords and I was drumming. So I'm happy to be back. I have spent the past 5 years working for the 1st Franklin District under the leadership of former Representative Natalie Blais. I was her chief of staff, and I am born and raised in Western Massachusetts. I'm really excited to be here with all of our partners tonight, people who I have worked with for a long time. My position at the time that Rep. Blais left was the Chief of Staff for the Joint Committee on Agriculture and Fisheries, so this is very near and dear to my heart. My background is also in food policy. I studied food policy at Clark University and went on to study the slow food movement in Perugia, Italy as well. And we've made a lot of progress. We have introduced the HIP program into Massachusetts, so we now have matching dollars for our SNAP dollars that go strictly to fresh food or frozen food from farms. That's been a really successful program. Shout out to our friends at CISA and our friends at the food bank as well. And I'm really thrilled to have an opportunity to connect with you all tonight.
Is this thing on?
Oh,
You can hear me?
yes.
Okay, great. All right. Good evening, everybody. My name is Laura Wendolowski, and I am so thrilled to be here tonight. Thank you to the organizers of the event. And these are organizations I care really deeply about. I moved to Franklin County 23 years ago to Greenfield when I was looking for a community that had a walkable downtown, rural character, and a place where we could afford. I found that home in Greenfield, and it's where I want to continue. I can be on my bike and in 5 minutes out in farm fields. I've been a CSA member, I think, since 1992 or somewhere back, from DC all the way through everywhere that I've lived. These issues are something I've worked on my entire career. I've worked on open space, protecting the environment. I ran the Massachusetts League of Environmental Voters, where we held the legislature accountable for their votes on the environment. I've been volunteering at Stone Soup for many years, and we know that so many of our neighbors are facing food insecurity, people who live right next door, so it's not just numbers. We've got to work harder to continue to connect the food that we have available everywhere to the people who need it and make sure that we're nourished. So I'm really excited to get to work at the State House on these issues that are near and dear to my heart. Thank you.
Well, I'll just add two things. One, that I commend all three of you for putting yourself out there to run for this seat. The democratic process. The democratic process may be in jeopardy across the country, but it feels alive and well here in the 1st Franklin District. And it was the last time there was an open seat in the 1st Franklin District where I saw how hard people worked to try to win that seat that disabused me from ever wanting to run for office myself. I'll also say to the audience, the good news is we're already running 10 minutes early. The first round of questions, each of the candidates will have 90 seconds to respond. There will be no time for rebuttal. They have been predetermined who will answer the question first. If the candidate wants to hear the question again after the first person is answered, I'm happy to read it for you again. The first question, food system concerns, including food insecurity and agriculture, need strong advocates on the Hill, as do the specific concerns of Western Mass constituents. The holder of this seat has traditionally been a leading advocate for farms and against hunger. How would you work with colleagues in Western Mass and across the state to prioritize these needs? And tell us what committees you would ask to join. The first person to answer this question is Corinne.
Thanks, Monty.
Welcome.
I'm a little sad we don't have a Wheel of Fortune with Natalie's face on it, though.
Yes, we did do a debate like that last time at the Shea.
So I've been doing this work at the State House for a long time. I think that's what sets me apart in this race, is that I have the State House experience and I have a legal background. So I have a deeper understanding of how laws are drafted and enacted. We have filed in this past year a bill called an Act Fostering Agricultural Resiliency in Massachusetts with Senator Comerford's team, and that is an omnibus bill that is leading the way for creating stability and resiliency for our farmers in Western Massachusetts. I have worked with partners across the state on this legislation. It was the first year it was filed, so we still have a little bit more work to do on this legislation, but it does a few really important things. It creates a fund for the next generation of farmers that is specific to workforce development. One of the major issues for our farmers is making sure that they have someone who will continue to operate the farm. You know, this is a very difficult job, and so by creating mentorship programs and also investing in technical education for farms, we're going to see that really have longevity in Western Massachusetts. I also think that we need to continue to invest financially, which we can talk more about. It's a short 90 seconds.
Amy, same question.
Thank you. Could you repeat the first part of the
Sure,
question?
food
I'm so
system
sorry.
concerns, no worries. Including food insecurity and agriculture needs strong advocates on the Hill, as do specific concerns of Western Mass constituents. The holder of this seat has traditionally been a leading advocate for farms and against hunger. How would you work with colleagues in Western Mass and across the state to prioritize these needs, and tell us what committees you'd ask to join?
Thank you. Sorry to make you repeat that.
It's good for my vocal cords to practice.
So I am very cognizant of the area that we live in. We live in a very rural agricultural area, and I consider agriculture to be one of the backbones of our area. I work in the fields. I work with the farmers locally already. I see what works and what doesn't work. As an independent candidate, I have the ability to work with anybody across any aisles. I'm in the middle of the aisle. I can work on both sides to find the best solution to what our farmers need. As far as committees that I would like to be on, the agricultural committee is definitely the top one. Other committees I would like to work on is a veterans committee. And is that 90 seconds? But I have a very good understanding of how important farmers are, not only to the area, but also to hunger in our area, and the two go hand in hand. Thank you.
And Laura. I promise you won't go last every time.
I don't mind going first, last, wherever it falls.
Good, because you're going first next time.
Can you tell me the question ahead of time?
Nope.
Okay, thanks. So the Farm Bill didn't make it over the finish line in this last session. We're going to have to start over and pull everything back together. And I'm ready to work to champion the next Farm Bill. That's going to mean taking conversations with the advocates here in the room, some of the farmers who I see in the room here tonight, and others, to make sure that the next Farm Bill gets across the finish line. We got to get it to the governor's desk, because it doesn't do us any good if it's just sitting there. So the things I really like about it are making sure that the Healthy Incentives Program, HIP, and Farm to School become permanent, and that we find a permanent funding source for that. Corinne mentioned the future farmer training. I think that's really important. So many farmers are concerned about getting the next generation into farming. We need to create the pathways. Hollamont used to have a program here in this area, so that's something that we could look at again. The food security infrastructure grants and increasing money to that is really important as well. I know that Senator Paul Mark has a buy local amendment that I would support. I have the experience running a statewide advocacy organization of getting bills passed in the legislature. I got earmarks for organizations here in the Valley. I have great relationships with legislators up and down the Valley and around the state. Thank you.
Our next question. 2/3 of Massachusetts farms operate at a loss, earning just 94.5 cents for every dollar spent on production. Can you share with us why you think farms are important to this district, and if elected, how you'll support the long-term viability of local farms? And as I mentioned previously, Laura goes first on this one.
This is not a new problem, right? I mean, this goes back many generations. We hear about farms, right now we're making 96 cents on the dollar, I think is the figure for our farms. So they're losing money. Some of it is the race to the bottom that's happening with big agribusiness that is much beyond our control. Milk prices that aren't enough to make it for farmers. Our last dairy farmer in Buckland is here in the room. We are losing farms. We know that farms are really important to our culture and our identity in this region. They are part of our economy, our landscape. They nourish us, both our bodies and our souls. And we need to make sure that we improve the business conditions so that they can make ends meet. This means health insurance. I support the Medicare for All, which will help lower the costs. Farmers need access to land, so there's a lot of things that we can do to improve, whether it's vacant lots and other things, state-owned land. And then succession planning, making sure that there is technical assistance and the support that farmers need. I talked to a farmer in Ashfield who has over 102 acres and a lot of animals, and they said nobody wants to come in. They don't have the next generation ready. So how do we create the system to support that? Thank you.
Corinne?
So there's not, a one-size-fits-all solution. I think that's something that is really important when we talk about Western Mass generally. We need to build programs that fit our communities and fit our businesses. So, what we've done over the past 5 years is bring folks from Boston, from Beacon Hill out and show them what it's like to be in Western Mass. And once they come here, they fall deeply in love with this region. With MDAR, we are so lucky to have the Massachusetts Department of Agriculture led by Ashley Randall, who is a Deerfield native, and I have worked in partnership with her office to implement programs like FSIG, the Food Security Infrastructure Grant, which allows farmers to invest in capital projects, infrastructure projects that help them adapt for this future generation of farming, because now they have robots that pick up cow poop. They have special milking machines that make it easier for farmers to have reliable hours. We need to continue to support our farmers through a lot of different avenues, including workforce development, including by stimulating growth through our buy locals. Buy locals play a huge role in making sure that folks know local food is available. I think we saw that during COVID. And strengthening our local food system can only strengthen our communities. And we do that really well out here through collaboration. So I would certainly want to continue to collaborate with all of the excellent organizations here tonight to support our next generation of farmers.
And Amy.
Thank you. So I agree with what both of my fellow candidates said. I think it's really important to support the programs that will help our farmer. I know as a farmer, losses are a real thing. And so we really need to support grant programs to help foster better infrastructure for our farmers so they can be able to not say nobody goes into farming to make money, because they have livelihoods, they have families they have to raise. Another thing I support is agritourism and trying to think outside the box to help our farmers stay. And one more thing I think that we really need to think about and look at is at our schools and our tech schools, having strong agricultural programs so we can raise the next generation, so these farmers do have someone to pass their businesses on to. Thank you.
Our next question. In 2025, the Food Bank of Western Massachusetts distributed 821,154 meals in the First Franklin District. With grocery costs now on the rise, how would you support communities that don't have access to affordable groceries? Amy?
Can I phone a friend?
Yes.
Could you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
Sure. Food Bank of Western Mass distributed 821 some odd meals in the First Franklin District. Grocery costs are now on the rise. How would you support communities that don't have access to affordable groceries?
We live in an area that has access to a lot of food, and I think we are on the right track of combining the food that we have, getting into the homes and onto the plates of the people that live here. The programs that we have currently do a good job doing that, but I think that we can support them even more in those endeavors.
Laura?
You know, this is something I think about all the time. Living in Franklin County, one of the poorest counties in the state. I've seen it first or second. I'm looking at Linda Dunleavy because she'll tell me exactly where we are. You know, when I took a group from Leadership Pioneer Valley to the food bank, I think it was about 10 years ago, and we were learning about food systems issues. I remember Andrew Morehouse saying to us, 1 in 8 people in Western Mass are food insecure. I think this was like 2014. We are now 1 in 2 people. In just that short amount of time. This is heartbreaking. It's people that I represent as city councilor in Greenfield. It is people in Shelburne. It is everybody across this district. So we need to make sure that one of the big things is the cost of living exceeds people's wages. There are so many great organizations, from the Mary Lyons Foundation to Stone Soup, that are getting food to people, but it's considered an emergency food, right? But right now, it's the backbone, it's people's necessity. We've got to get more money to the organizations that are doing this important work. We almost lost the Franklin County Community Meals Program. These things are essential. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to acknowledge that we're living in really difficult times. We are coming up against some of these systemic issues at a national level that we can't mitigate with state dollars. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but we can only invest as much funds as we have in Massachusetts. So I certainly support the MEFAP program, Massachusetts Emergency Food Assistance Program, which is what the food bank distributes in Western Massachusetts to lots of different organizations, like the Mary Lyon Foundation. I deliver groceries every other week for the Mary Lyon Foundation in West County, and I have volunteered at Stone Soup for many years. We have to be able to hold hands with our neighbors and come together here. This is, a larger conversation than just within our community. I've been really proud to see the efforts of our local organizations, and we're fighting this at a national level right now. I think that's something that I don't want to lose sight of, that about 50% of the job that we're doing in the legislature right now is just defending Massachusetts from the Trump administration. We're in a constitutional crisis. I'm the only person on this stage that has a legal background in constitutional law, and I think that as we're able to move forward and fight cuts through the Attorney General's office, we're going to be able to unlock some more of that funding, but it's incredibly difficult right now.
Our next question. Across Massachusetts, landowners, farmers, and farm workers are already feeling the impacts of climate change, from drought and other extreme weather events to new pests and diseases. What would you do to help them adapt and to build a stronger safety net to withstand environmental and economic shocks? And how would you balance it against other budget priorities? Corinne, you're first on this one.
Yeah. I see every issue through a climate lens. I think we need climate resiliency in every kind of policy that we are implementing. I grew up during this climate crisis. It has been painfully real in my life to see our communities destroyed by extreme weather events. In July of 2023, we had major flooding in this region that impacted crops across the Pioneer Valley. Ben Clark, who is here tonight and is supporting me in this campaign, was also on the ground. We stood with farmers in the fields trying to find a way to deliver for them, and we did. We created this fund called the Natural Disaster Relief Fund, which is the first in the country to give direct assistance to municipalities and to farmers in climate events. We have to continue to be investing in climate resiliency in a prevention lens, but we also have to be able to react to these major disasters that are going to continue to happen, unfortunately, with greater frequency. So I will definitely be a strong advocate for that program and making sure that it is funded annually at $20 million. I will also say that if we can be investing in climate smart solutions, like planting more native crops in our highway mid-zones, if we can be bringing kind of innovative solutions that help our environment, then we're stronger.
Amy?
Thank you. So I see firsthand how the climate and weather affect our farmers and our crops. This year, we have had very little precipitation, and the river that the farmers typically use to draw for irrigation ran dry. So I think that we have to invest in climate resiliency, but also, like, just something to echo what Corinne said, we also have to look at ways of dealing with what we have on the ground. Long term, more native plantings and things like that. We also have to look at other ways to be able to support our farms so they are bountiful, in like using insects instead of insect sprays and things like that. So I think we have to react to what's happening on the ground, but we also have to think about long term. I don't know that throwing money at every little thing is going to help. I think that there are ways that we can help if we think outside the box. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. This is something I care really deeply about. I have spent more than 20 years in my career working for environmental organizations, working on climate issues, from National Audubon Society to the League of Conservation Voters to the Massachusetts League of Environmental Voters. We know that climate change is here. We are experiencing more frequent flooding, droughts that are happening like right now, freezes in the spring that are weird. People call it weather weirding, right? And it's a challenge of our time. We've got to get this right. It is so critical. When it comes to working with farms, floodplain restoration is really important. Doing the infrastructure culvert improvements. I know they were digging up the roads in Greenfield, and you could see these clay pots that are about this big around. They're not going to withstand the floods that are coming. So we've got to make sure that we're doing those improvements. Riparian buffers are really important. We saw all of the flooding that happened in Deerfield and up in the hill towns. We need to fully fund the Healthy Soils program, expand MDAR, climate resiliency. I have experience getting important climate legislation passed. I was part of a coalition that passed the Global Warming Solutions Act, the Green Communities Act. I will be there at the State House fighting every day to make sure we do the next.
Our next question, H.R. 1 shifts significant SNAP costs to states and will reduce food assistance for many Massachusetts residents. If elected, what specific actions would you take at the state level to mitigate the impact of these federal SNAP cuts on individuals and families? Laura?
Thank you. Well, we've talked about food insecurity a little bit already. So we know that just in Massachusetts alone, because of what's happening with SNAP, there are 141,000 fewer people on SNAP right now than there were a year ago at this time. And close to 15% of them are children. So this is a big impact on our communities. The Healthy Incentives Program has been really important because it ends up with $2 for every dollar that's spent. We need to make that fund permanent. That was something that was in the Farm Bill. And we need to make sure that there's a source of funding so that it doesn't go away every time we run out of money. We also know that there are bigger concerns that we can help that aren't connected to SNAP and the federal. Increasing access to transportation for people. This is one of the barriers to getting jobs, to getting food. Making sure, I talked already about health insurance, Medicare for all. I'm proud that I've been endorsed by the Working Families Party. We need to make sure that we are training and workforce development people for the jobs that are in demand that pay well. There's a lot of jobs within the trades right now that are going unfilled. The Franklin Tech is doing a great job, and those are ways that we can lift people out of poverty. Thank you.
Corinne?
Yeah, so there are a few things that we can do. I do think the Healthy Incentives Program is a really important piece of this. I wrote the legislation that codifies this in law. I am very supportive of it, and I would love to see a higher percentage of dollars put into that program, because not only are we supporting people who need funds for food, but we're also supporting farmers. That is reliable income that they know is coming their way. And you know, there are plenty of farmers out there who are also food insecure. It's a very sad irony. I would also say that, you know, we need to continue to support our Attorney General's office. Andrea Campbell is a fighter for Massachusetts. She is taking the Trump administration to court, and she is winning. She is leading the nation, and a lot of these cuts are unconstitutional. So unfortunately, a lot of these battles are being fought in the courts. I will certainly be a strong supporter of her and her office, and would really like to see you know, even more funds invested into her office at this time while we are, you know, in the midst of really a national crisis.
And Amy.
So 14% of our population relies on SNAP benefits, and that is an increase from the last 6 years. I think we saw a big rise in inflation after COVID, and so the cost of living rising has really increased our dependence on programs to mitigate, can I start over? I'm sorry.
You can't start the time over, but you can certainly start your statement over.
90 seconds is not that long to keep everything together. So 14% of our population uses SNAP benefits. I think that and that is due to the cost of living that has risen. I think that we in Massachusetts do a really good job not relying on just one program to help our residents. And I think that we do a really good job looking at all of the different ways that we can help everybody. One thing that we need to also think about is students. And by supporting student food programs, especially during the summer when they're not in school. Right now, we enjoy free breakfasts and lunches at the schools, and I'm getting cut off. Thank you.
This one skipped page 2 and has no questions 6 through 12. But luckily, I printed my own copy at any PM. I was like, now we're running 50 minutes ahead of schedule. How did we do this?
Okay, time to go home.
Back to the next question. All right, I think I know where we're at right now. Let me see here. Number 6, right? Everybody's following along in their book? Yes. In Massachusetts, the Food Security Infrastructure Grant Program, created during the pandemic, helped ensure equitable access to food for Massachusetts families and helped farmers, fishermen, and other producers build their capacity to support a strong, resilient food system. The state's Healthy Incentive Program provides a SNAP match on purchases of fruits and vegetables from local farms. Other Massachusetts programs, like MeFAP and Mass Fresh, use state dollars to get more locally grown food into the emergency food system and into schools, respectively. Do you support continuation and expansion of programs like these, and what other policies or initiatives would you propose to ensure more tax dollars are doing double duty to provide nutritious food while also supporting our local farm economy? Amy?
Thank you. Sorry, it's been a long day. So I think that we really need to support the programs that we have. They work as well as they can in our environment. I think that we need to strengthen them, and I would talk with the people on the ground and farmers in the community to see if there's other ways that we can go about helping to support them.
Laura?
Can you repeat a little bit of it?
Sure.
That was a long
So
one.
basically, to sum up,
Yes.
there's a lot of great programs in Massachusetts,
Okay, blah,
like
blah,
HIP, Mass Fresh, the MeFAP program. What can you do to get our tax dollars in Massachusetts to do double duty to provide nutritious food while at the same time supporting our local farm economy?
Thank you. Absolutely. Those are super important programs. It's important that they become permanent, that we find permanent funding sources for them so that they can continue to go on. Farm to School is bringing healthy food right into our schools. The food system is integral to connecting the food that we're producing here to the people who are eating food, right? It's pretty simple that way, but unfortunately, because of the way distribution works and other things, it doesn't always get to people. And so all that we can do to reinforce that and break down those barriers is important. I think of the Franklin County CDC and the Food Processing Center, the way that they flash freeze veggies so that they have more storage capacity for people. The safe kitchen that they use to get foods. There's the Hilltown CDC that's also doing some of this work. I think we have to continue to increase these kinds of programs that will reach people, whether it's through the food processing, more aggregation, transportation that can get food to the people who need it, which doesn't seem that complicated, but it is, because there's a lot of in-between distributors. Institutional purchasing has been really important. GCC being able to get food from our farmers there. So, thank you.
And Corinne.
So yes, yes, yes. I certainly support all of these programs. I've worked directly on all of them. I think one thing that I want to acknowledge how important it is universal school meals. We have recently implemented universal school meals in Massachusetts. I was extremely proud to work on that. Kids being able to eat should not be a radical thing, but we finally have secured that in Massachusetts, and I hope to see that never change. This is also another provision in our Farm Bill and Act Fostering Agricultural Resilience, which is to set up a tracking system for all the local food that's being produced and utilized in our public programs. Right now, we don't have someone or a system that is overseeing where each pound of potatoes is going. That will allow us to really understand better how we're utilizing our local food systems and where we can be better supporting them. We have excellent access to local fresh food in Western Mass. That's not true for everywhere across the state. Lowell, Fall River. We need to be making sure that our fresh food out here is getting across the state because we have this incredible luxury of being connected to our food and farmers out here. But I would love to see that increase for folks who don't understand, agriculture as much. I had the opportunity to go meet with students in Lowell who are now learning about food, and making those connections is really, really important.
Our next question. Lack of access to transportation is one of the major causes of food insecurity. We know that public transportation in Western Mass is inadequate and chronically underfunded. What thoughts do you have on trying to improve it? Corinne?
I'm really excited to talk about this. RTAs, regional transit authorities, are such a huge part of our transportation network out here. And I think it was probably 2024, we passed the Fair Share Amendment in Massachusetts, which created a lot of additional revenue for transportation and education. And so back in 2024, Natalie was chairing the Regional Transit Authority Caucus, and we were able to invest an additional $60 million annually in our regional transit authorities. So now, that's a big win. Instead of $90 million annually, they're getting over $150 million. So we have actually seen a lot of improvement, increasing in evening and weekend service, and also the implementation and pilot of a lot of on-demand service, microtransit, which is really important, particularly in the hill towns and for seniors who are isolated in this region, to be able to get to the grocery store, to be able to get to doctor's appointments. So I'm really proud of that work, and I really only see it as a starting point. We have a lot of room to expand on it, and again, I think we do our work best when we're collaborating. I've worked with Linda at the FERCOG, and we are just at the beginning of really connecting all of our rural communities, so I certainly see that as a priority for me.
Amy?
So we have seen an improvement in local transportation. We have seen extra bus routes coming down, especially for our hill towns, which is super important. We also don't want to forget, yes, we can get money from the state level. I think that Boston needs to understand that our needs out here are a little different than the MBTA or the T out there. What works out there doesn't necessarily work out here because of our rural nature. We do have other programs that I just want to shout out that help with transportation for a lot of our residents. Places like we have Valley Neighbors. They offer free transportation for people who need to go to doctor's appointments and grocery stores and things like that. And I think it's important to support those organizations that kind of fill that gap until we get a stronger public transportation system here in Western Massachusetts.
Transportation,
So critical, right? I mean, it drives where we have jobs, where we can get food, how we can recreate. And the truth is, it's expensive to have a car. It's expensive to maintain, looking at gas prices and everything else. I was talking to a person in Ashfield who was in public housing and really loves living in Ashfield. But she said, you know, one of my biggest challenges, I can't get anywhere from here. It's really hard to find a job, to get to a job from here. In the last couple of years, we've gotten the free fares, which is really important. We need to maintain that and keep that going for the entire Commonwealth. The evening and weekends, that just came recently. So if you had night classes at GCC, you couldn't go, right? You couldn't get around town. You couldn't get to the grocery store on weekends if you're relying on public transit. We've got to make sure that we continue those routes and support it. Microtransit is really important. When I worked in smart growth, they talked about the radius. So as you go out, it's like pi r squared, right? So it's really hard to do routes when you're covering a really huge area, which is why we need more on-demand microtransit so that people can get to where they need to go without creating routes on it.
The next question, it's another one that has a lot of prologue, but then the question is at the end. So I'll kind of try to take a dramatic pause when it gets to the question. Land values in Massachusetts are among the highest in the nation, which is a huge barrier to entry for new farmers and a barrier to expansion for established farmers. Agricultural land conservation programs are one of the main ways to ensure that farmland remains in productive use and is assessed for its agricultural value, not development value. However, funding for these programs is limited, and many landowners find the process slow and difficult to navigate. How would you help streamline and secure funding for conservation incentive programs to keep agricultural land in agriculture and reduce barriers to land access, especially for new and beginning farmers? Laura?
Yeah, farmers are challenged with accessing land, absolutely. I hear that from farmers all across this district, people who have to like piecemeal farms, and new farmers who want to get into farming. They can't find land and they can't afford to do it. You know, there's a long waiting list for the agricultural protection restriction and conservation restriction programs. It's both money. We need to increase the cap from $2 million a year so that there's more money available for those programs. We also have to increase staffing. There's a long wait list because people are waiting on the phone to reach somebody. That has increased at the state level, but still need to do more to make sure that there's the adequate staff to take care of the program that we need. I think there's opportunities to look at state land and vacant land and moving that into agriculture. That is something that was in the Farm Bill that will have to get restarted. I'm really excited about the ballot initiative that's the Nature for All. That would bring $100 million per year from a tax that's on sporting goods for conservation land. So that could be a really good fund that could help unlock some funding. And then succession planning. If we can keep farmers in farming, then the land's not going to end up in development and other things. So as somebody going to the State House, I'll fight for it.
Corinne?
Yeah, we actually are doing really well out here in Massachusetts. The eastern part of the state is doing a little bit less, yes, well, but the agriculture preservation program is definitely, I think, the key part of this, putting more funding to protect farmland, but also so that we can more easily move it around. We've included a provision in the Farm Bill to allow MDR to buy and sell land, which is really important. Out here, we have wonderful land trusts like the Franklin County Land Trust. There are a lot of really interesting partnerships happening around the state between farmers and land trusts, which is kind of creating this interesting public good of farmland that you can have, publicly owned trust land that is being leased by farmers. So I would love to continue to invest in that partnership. I think, again, that's something we do really well out here, is collaborate. We have a program right now for new home buyers to get a down payment for a house. I would really like to do the same thing for farmers. I would like to create a program that puts a down payment on land so that there's no barrier. If you're an entry-level farmer, you don't have a background, your family didn't own land, that you are able to access land, because it is so critical to be, connected to our environment in that way. This is, I'm done. Thank you.
I'll just say, everybody's being so well behaved when it comes to the time, and I love that.
We're very respectful.
I love that.
It's
It's not me. Amy?
It's really hard to get all of your thoughts into a minute and a half.
Believe me.
I
I work in a time-based industry.
So we have over 70,000 acres of farmland here. And like Laura said, sometimes it's very piecemeal. One thing I would like to see is we have a thing called Chapter 61, and that allows people to put their land into chapters, so their property taxes are a little less than if it was not in chapter. One restriction of that is you have to have 5 acres or more on the parcel. Something we can do to help our farmers is to lift that restriction. So for example, I have 4 acres of farmable land, so we don't qualify for Chapter 61. If we could help our smaller farmers, especially on those smaller parcels, I think it would make a big difference. Thank you.
Next question. What would you improve about existing programs and policies that address food security in Western Mass? Amy?
That is a very broad question.
And yet so short in the answer.
I know. We have so many different programs that work with so many different aspects, and I think it is very important for whoever gets this seat to really work and collaborate with all of those programs to help them be sustainable and improve and help the people that are here. Thank you.
Laura?
I feel like we answered this question already, but
Now you have 90 extra seconds to answer it again.
oh, fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. As Amy said, there are a lot of organizations doing great work connecting the dots for our communities, making sure that they're filling in all the gaps. I think there's the opportunity to continue to support those organizations. As a state rep, I want to work with the rest of the delegation to look at our earmarks and how we might get money to the organizations who need it. I know I mentioned the Franklin County Community Meals Program, but the $70,000 earmark that came to them saved them and made sure that they were able to continue working. So we have to work together to look at the whole ecosystem of programs and organizations. I am committed to working with the delegation to protect our programs and really work hard on food insecurity with both the state and the federal. Thank you.
Can you just repeat the question really quickly?
Sure. What would you improve about existing programs and policies that address food security in Western Mass?
Okay. This is actually really a niche interest for me that I've spent a lot of time in the Mass General laws looking at. So the Food Security Infrastructure Grant Program, which we referenced earlier, allows farmers to make capital investments and do infrastructure projects. A lot of that money goes to equipment. And until now. We really haven't had a conversation about allowing those funds to be utilized for used equipment. Farmers have been coming to us for a long time and saying, hey, we could really stretch these dollars a lot further if we could purchase used equipment. So that's something that I myself wrote into the Farm Bill, is codifying the FSIG program, but also using those dollars on tractors that, you know, maybe a little bit older, but potentially could be more cost effective in the long term. And what we're seeing kind of similarly in the automobile industry is that it's more and more difficult to repair farm equipment, like the newer models. It's much more difficult to repair. So sometimes having an older model actually is an advantage in itself, because you can be doing that repair work yourself. So certainly that is, you know, one I think good government fix that I would make day one.
Next question. Farm workers face unique challenges, including low pay, limited workplace protections, increasing heat, and growing hostility to immigrants by the federal government. At the same time, many farm owners express concerns about balancing workers' needs against their own extremely narrow margins. Do you have any specific policy proposals or stances that would address these concerns? Corinne?
Yeah, so this is a long-standing issue. I want to say a few things first, which is that I am horrified by ICE, by the federal government's action on immigration. It is disgusting, and we should be doing everything we can to protect our friends who are immigrants in this region, many of which are farm workers. I also think that this is really about relationships, and I think that's why I have excelled in this work. You know, I'm a progressive Democrat. I have no interest in only working with progressive Democrats. I will work with anyone, and I think that's why we've been so successful. Something that I've talked a lot about in this campaign is just building bridges. I want people to get out and talk to their neighbors. I want all of us to find more commonality than difference. And that's a big part of this conversation, is just getting people to the table. So I am certainly, it's a priority to me. I think that farmers want to pay their farm workers fairly. They want them to have high quality living conditions. And farm workers also, you know, deserve that. And I don't think that this is, you know, something that is untouchable. I'm really excited for this next chapter of work where hopefully we can build some deeper relationships and get that done.
Amy?
Thank you. I think that we can strengthen and support the current visas that our farm workers use to come work. We should support and incentive, I can't talk, our farmers. Like something Corinne said was about housing for the workers, and sometimes farmers cannot house them in the best conditions. And I think that as the state, we should really work with our farmers to make sure that the workers have decent living conditions. We should strengthen the work visa program so we can have the farmers that come. We rely on them. They come for the summer. They work really, really hard. They send the money back home, and then they're able to go back home, and their families are taken care of in a way that they wouldn't be able to do if they stayed in their own country. And I think that it's really important that we support that work. I think it's also important to educate residents here. Farm work is hard, but it is doable. And I started picking apples and tobaccos and cucumbers when I was 8 years old. I'm not saying we should bring back child labor, but it's rewarding work. And I think a lot of people don't, and I got the red card, thank you.
I remember taking a group from Leadership Pioneer Valley, which is a regional leadership development organization, to Pine Hill Orchard. And this was during Trump 1. And the farmer talking to us about the challenges of having workers, because he had a Jamaican family who was coming every year, and because of the cancellation of visas, he couldn't rely on those farmers anymore. So we saw people being dragged away from Red Fire Farm and many of the other farms here in this region. It is a real threat, and it is happening to our neighbors, and it's impacting our farms and their ability to do the work. So we have to fight everywhere we can to stop this. That being said, we also have to make sure we balance between paying our workers equitably and making sure that farms can stay in business. So that's going to mean finding ways to lower the costs for farms doing business, whether that's through healthcare that I've mentioned, and bringing down other costs so that they can afford to pay their workers. I know Senator Gomez introduced the amendment to the Farm Bill that got withdrawn to increase wages for farm workers. I want to work with Senator Gomez and others to make sure that we find a pathway that's going to work for both farmers and the farm workers. Got really good relationships with the Pioneer Valley Workers Center. This is really important.
Next question. Those who suffer from food insecurity, which includes many farmers and farm workers, also often struggle with housing costs. What are your thoughts on the housing crisis in Massachusetts, and how do you view the relationship between housing and food insecurity and farming? Laura?
It's all connected. We absolutely are in a housing crisis. I see it all the time when I'm talking to people all around this district. They tell me stories about, a nephew who's sleeping on their couch because they can't find somewhere to live. I talk to business owners who can't fill jobs because their workers can't find somewhere to live in this region. Those costs are rent that is sky high right now, and the cost of buying a house, whether it's through the mortgage, because of interest rates being higher. We need to increase production and find a way that adjusts the state programs to meet our rural needs. We're not going to build 100 units here in Shelburne. It's not going to happen. But that's going to be really important to get the housing that we need. I've seen some really good partnerships that are happening in other places between land trusts and housing that are bringing the ability to protect land along with affordable housing in places like East Hampton. I know the Hilltown Land Trust has been looking at this along with the Hilltown CDC. So I think there's a lot of opportunities for partnerships that will build housing that will then decrease the cost for people, which will help with food insecurity.
Corinne?
So I believe housing is a right. I also believe that healthcare is a right, which is why I'm supportive of Medicare for all and single payer. We need more housing. It's no secret. We need to invest in housing at the shelter level. We need to invest in transitional housing. People are staying in shelter for up to 18 months at a time. That is not what emergency shelter is designed to do. We need more mixed income and affordable housing as well. I'm really excited to see that we have this new home buyer program, and it's allowing people like me, younger people, to be able to actually think about purchasing a home. I worked in partnership with the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities with the FERCOG to develop a new program for housing at the state level called Housing Choice. And it is exactly what Laura just described. We don't need 100 units. We need 5 in Ashfield. We need 10 in Conway. So this program is particularly designed so that our small rural communities can be competitive for those funds. We don't do things out here in just private silos. You know, we do it with public-private funding. So that program in particular has allowed us to really open the door for more housing development and production. I would also say that, you know, we need to be investing. Guys, I always finish my thought and then it's up. Thank you.
Amy?
Affordable housing is $1 million question, right? And it's not something that we're seeing just here in our area. It is something that's nationwide. I think if you solved the housing crisis, you would win the Nobel Peace Prize. And we talk about the price of a house, to purchase a house, but we also have to think about how sky-high rent is right now. I wish I had the answer on how we can lower those costs. One thing, I think, one tangible thing that we can do is for especially first-time home buyers, we need to look at property taxes. Our property taxes are based on the current assessment value of our homes. If you purchase a home for $300,000 and your home is worth $800,000 now, that tax bill might not be, you may not be able to afford that tax bill, and that tax is on something, on a gain that you're not realizing. So I think that property taxes are definitely something we need to look at. The cost of building material is up 40% from 5 years ago. So just the cost of building a unit, oh, I got red flagged, thank you.
This is the last question before the 5-minute break. So if you do have a question in the audience and you have the cards, be thinking about it and be handing it over during that 5-minute break. When we break, I'll have the folks stand up first to hand those cards too. It's become increasingly clear how many people are living on the edge, perhaps just one illness, car accident, or job loss away from destitution. In Franklin County, the unemployment rate is 3.9%, while according to the Greater Boston Food Bank's annual Massachusetts Food Access Report, the food insecurity rate is 48%. It's clear that while many people are employed, they're still struggling to meet the basic needs of their household. What would you propose be done to stabilize individuals and families so people would no longer live so close to the edge of financial catastrophe? Amy?
Where do I start? There are so many factors that go into this. I know from firsthand experience what it's like to work a full-time job but not be able to afford a place of my own to live. I spent 4 years couch surfing. I had a full-time job, I had a baby, but in the state's eyes, I made too much money to be able to get any type of services. I said this in Sunderland last week. What they told me was that I needed to quit my job, move into a shelter for about 2 years before I could get on a waiting list. That's unacceptable. I've spent the last 30 years trying to figure out how to make sure that that doesn't happen to anybody else. There's a lot of things that go into that. We only have 90 seconds, but I'm very, very aware that at any moment we could be sleeping on our friends' couches even though we work full time, and I think that we need to change the way our programs are so we can help those people and help people before they even get to that point. Thank you.
Laura?
What Amy is referring to is partially the cliff effect. So a lot of people face, if they increase their wages by just a little bit, then then they're not going to get the same amount of services. And there are studies that I can't remember the percentage off the top of my head, but it's a big decrease when you go up by just a few dollars an hour. That is a federal thing that we've got to fight and change those policies. I can't wait till November. Maybe we'll have a change in Congress that will allow us to push for some of this cliff effect, because this is a real problem. People are working too many jobs and still not getting ahead. And we're left with having to fill in with all of the programs we've been talking about tonight. We've talked about, the costs of housing. Got to keep working on that. That is putting people in perilous situations. Health insurance, that's why I support the Medicare for All. Again, we're paying way too much. I worked on the city council in Greenfield to get us onto the group insurance commission, working with the unions. We ended up decreasing the cost to Greenfield by $1.2 million in doing that. That is money in people's pockets because it's less premiums going up for people. So we have to look at what are the in-between ways that we can do this that will make a difference in people's lives.
So I think this is the essence of really why I'm running for office, and this is the essence of the work that we've been doing over the past 5 years. Building a stronger, more resilient community in Franklin County cannot mean just one thing. I see this as really a larger puzzle that we're putting together. It's housing, it's infrastructure, it's education. We have invested in broadband out here, so people could theoretically be working remotely in this area now, which was, never happened before. And with so many people now working remotely, it's a much larger share of the population. People want to live in rural communities. People want to stay in Western Mass where they grew up. I have a vision for this region that makes us all stronger together, and it starts, having these kinds of conversations and implementing investments that we have not seen for a very long time. That's rural schools education, that's fixing Chapter 70, that's increasing our RTAs, and it's investing in economic development like outdoor recreation at Berkshire East and Zor. This is, there's not a one solution to that question. It's everything all the time at once, which is why I think I've said there's no priority for me in this race. It is everything all the time at once. To be strong in this job, you have to be proficient in all of these policies, and that's me.
Okay, could Laura and Emily stand up and let everyone know who you are? If you have a question for the second half, make sure during this 5-minute break to get it to one of them. It doesn't mean it's going to definitely get answered, but they're going to sift through them, and some of them will be part of the second half. We'll take a quick 5-minute break and be right back here.
I'm dying. Oh, is my mic on? My mic is on.
I know. The hot mic.
How do I shut this off?
You don't have the button.
I don't have a button.
Good to gather you all up once again. Come back and re-enter the room and take your seats. We'll get started with the second half. Thanks to all of you who have forwarded questions, and thanks to all of you who are staying for the second half. I do have one other little bit of housekeeping. I was just informed that neither of the two toilets in the women's bathroom are flushing currently.
Oh.
So, what's that? Men's not working either? Oh boy, I'm sorry to hear that.
I think there's a water problem. I think all the water is off.
Oh. There's no water? Oh dear. Well, I was gonna say we do have a third bathroom, which is a single-use bathroom, but if the water is off, that probably isn't working either. So, anyway, I will go down and take a look, but we will.
Mocha Maya.
We'll let you know, but otherwise we'll have to fan out across the town and look for other bathrooms.
I can try. I can try to get my plumber's hat on.
As one of the 3 members of the sewer commission, I take full responsibility.
Oh, here we go.
Well, thanks for sticking with this, everybody. This part will be fun, a little lighthearted, and a lightning round. So answer these questions as quickly as you can. What is your favorite local summer food, Amy?
Corn on the cob.
Nice. Corinne?
Tomatoes.
Laura?
Peaches and making peach cobbler.
Ooh.
I just made peach cobbler.
All right.
Did you?
No one is allowed to let this answer go out from this room. What is your favorite swimming spot? It's very controversial when you let your swimming spots be known publicly. So we're going to keep it tight in here, okay? Laura?
Sunburn Beach.
Okay. Amy?
There is a pond in an undisclosed location near my home that I can walk to.
Okay. Corinne?
Chesterfield Gorge.
Nice. Either your favorite summer reading you've done or what you're reading right now. Corinne?
I'm always reading like 4 different books because I want to have one fiction, one nonfiction, like one memoir. I just finished Ann Patchett's new book, Whistler, which was really wonderful.
My wife finished that yesterday.
Yeah, I loved it.
Okay. Laura?
I'm reading 2 books right now because I've always was an overachiever. So I'm reading The Covenant of Water.
Oh, that's a good one.
Oh, that's what's happening right now in the bathrooms downstairs.
Yes, I heard it's the Hunger Games of water, and I'm reading Hot, Flat, and Crowded by Thomas Friedman.
Amy?
Ellen Hildebrand.
Nice.
I also just read an Ellen Hildebrand.
She's amazing.
If you weren't here campaigning this August, where would you be? Amy?
I am knee deep in vote by mail right now because I'm the town clerk, so I am playing with ballots.
Corinne?
Well, I got married in June, so thank you. My beautiful husband, Jack, is here. We had wished to take a honeymoon at some point, though that has been postponed for the foreseeable future.
And Laura?
Thank you.
I'm leaving tomorrow morning to do some college visits with my daughter. We're driving from here to Wisconsin over a couple of days, so
It's an amazing
I'm
drive.
looking forward to it and sorry to not be knocking doors. So I'm appreciative that Sarah gets will be doing that.
You'll have the best ice cream ever in Wisconsin.
Best ice cream ever in Wisconsin, says Amy.
Yes.
You missed that.
I
Okay,
don't- I
audience
don't
questions.
agree.
We're going to still do 90 seconds for the audience questions. We're going to try to get to as many. There are 5, so if you all ask more of them, you may or may not have your question here. I didn't choose these. Don't shoot the messenger. A strong food system relies on a strong local public health system. What will your priorities be to ensure that our rural area has well-funded, well-trained local public health inspectors and nurses? Laura.
Phoebe Walker. Gosh, that is a fantastic question, and I was unprepared for it this evening, but I know that partnering with the Franklin Regional Council of Governments and others, I will learn very quickly what needs to get done. We need to support more regionalization. I know we've gotten some health agents that are being shared between communities. We need to do more of that. We need to make sure that we get a pharmacist over at Baker's. I've heard a rumor that maybe we could do something like they're doing in the east part of the district with the Franklin County Community Health Center running the pharmacy, and they're also delivering to seniors. So those are things that I would look to do here. Thank you.
Amy.
Invest in education not only for adult learners but our kids as well. If we can give them good we have great education already, but if we can support and expand what we have now, especially at GCC, and I'm going to shout out tech, that would be really important. Thank you.
Corinne.
So we passed the SAFE Act a couple of years ago, and that has really transformed our public health out here. I would love to continue to invest in that. There's certainly still room for more. But I also think that we are seeing this on a larger scale, not just with boards of health, but just municipal government in general. It's a professionalization of something that you used to be able to do with just one town administrator. And now it's really something that you need a strong educational background in to be able to be equipped to do the work. So one thing that I'm really passionate about is just getting more technical assistance for small rural communities, whether that be for town administrators, for local boards of health, meeting people where they're at, because as we've said many times tonight, the systems that are created for the Boston area do not work out here for Western Mass. So we've started that work with public health, and I think we need to continue to invest in it.
Audience question 2. I know this is about agriculture, but what would your strategy be to get the legislature and governor to address the chronic inequity of rural school funding? Amy.
How much time do I have?
90 seconds.
Oh, boy. I know that they're re-looking at Chapter 70. That's something that's in the works. We really, really need to support an overhaul of that so it works for our rural schools. Rural school funding is so important for us out here. Fun fact, tech schools do not qualify for rural aid, so that is something that I definitely want to see changed. Thank you.
Corinne?
I'm looking at my dear friend Martha Thurber, who is the chair of the Mohawk Regional School Committee. We've been doing this work together for a long time. I have spent really my entire tenure in Rep. Blai's office working on rural schools. In 2022, we created and ran the Fiscal Health for Rural Schools Special Commission, which developed a report and set the benchmarks for the kind of funding that we need. So I wrote that report, and then I also wrote the legislation that followed it. And since then, we have successfully advocated for over $16 million annually to be allocated to rural schools in this region. We've also had a lot of success in building a coalition across the state, because we are not the only schools that are struggling, certainly other rural schools, but even schools that are simply plateauing with their enrollment or even declining in their enrollment. And so our advocacy, has been, I would say, pretty successful. We still have a ways to go, but I'm really proud of that work. And I grew up here. I went to these rural schools. This is my lived experience. I received an excellent education here. I think it set me up for the success I've been able to have throughout my life. And I want to make sure that kids who are living here now are getting those same opportunities.
We know that schools are critically important to our region. I've got involved in public service about 4 years ago when the former mayor of Greenfield was cutting the school budgets in a way that was going to impact staffing, music and arts programs, and I joined with my neighbors to advocate to make sure that we were showing up, we were going to meetings, raising our voices. We continue to be underfunded in this region. This is so important. We know that our kids aren't getting the same education as kids in the East. We need, as it's been said, there's a commission that's being formed that will open up the Chapter 70 funding, or at least look at it. We've got to get it to not just look at it, but actually open it up. We need to enshrine a rural funding factor in the formula to make sure that our rural schools and Western Mass is getting its fair share. This is not going to be easy because a lot of schools have declining enrollment, so we're not the only ones. It's both urban and rural schools. We've got to find the commonality. I have great relationships with legislators across the Commonwealth and across this district. We've got to find ways that make sure that there's a sparsity factor that's looking at, like we did with Chapter 90, so that the square mileage is really important to how we're doing these formulas. This teamwork and coalition building is what we need to do, and we'll do it.
Can we just say, so Chapter 70 is the state funding formula for K through 12 education. I just want to make sure people know what we're talking about.
Thank you for the clarification. Our next audience question: what will you do to ensure our minimum wage is raised to a true living wage that would allow people to more easily afford food, as well as rent, education, healthcare, etc.? And what do you think that wage should be? Laura?
So I'm proud to be endorsed by the Working Families Party. We need to make sure that we're indexing our minimum wage with inflation. So that we know that inflation is rising faster than what we have set in Massachusetts for increasing the minimum wage. We've got to move it from the 15 to 17 to 20 soon, sooner than later. So this is really important. We're falling behind. This is why the cost of living is much higher out here than what people can afford. I remember Linda Dunleavy saying to me about how employers always say, well, that's a good wage for Franklin County, right? We get paid less out here. And so increasing the minimum wage, indexing it to inflation will help us get ahead, because otherwise people are like, oh, well, your houses are pretty cheap there, so we don't have to pay you as much. But that is not true. We need to do this. I'm committed to fighting for it.
Amy?
I agree with what Laura said. I think that we need to index our minimum wage to cost of living. When you have an employer, some employers will give you what's called a COLA, cost of living adjustment, and there's no reason why we can't do that for minimum wage. In our area, I think the minimum wage you can get to actually live, they said, was like $25 an hour, but I would challenge any family to live on $25 an hour. I think we really need to look at exactly what Laura said about indexing that minimum wage to the current inflation in COLAs. Thank you.
So I think kind of going back to this idea that we're building just a stronger version of Franklin County, we're investing in all of these ways to make it more affordable for people to live here. I think I know, I don't want to say better than everyone on this stage, but I'm a young person, I'm 27, and people my age cannot afford to buy homes. People my age are living with the same wages that their parents did in the 90s and paying for a crazy significant increase in cost of living. There is no way to fit this together to make it work, so we have to change that. I'm certainly supportive of raising the minimum wage. I'm also really supportive of strong union jobs. I'm really proud to be endorsed by the Western Mass Labor Building Trades Union, which is a coalition of over 20 local unions who are wanting to literally build this region to be stronger, both in workforce and in housing production.
Penultimate audience question. With so many different issues, quote, everything everywhere, how will you decide where to start and what to do on day one, Corinne?
So, yeah, I know exactly what to do on day one because I've been doing this work for 5 years. I have said to many people that it has been a much greater challenge learning out how to be a candidate and run for office than it will be for me to start as state rep on day one. I am incredibly passionate about this work. I have worked on all of these issues intimately with town administrators, with local businesses, with local officials, and I am ready to go. I'm passionate about this. The reason I'm running is because I love this region. This is my home, and I love this work.
Laura?
I'm really excited to take this leap. I have been working for the last number of years, running organizations, leading on environmental issues, leadership development, bringing together on social justice and civic engagement. I'm really passionate about 3 things that I'm hearing from voters over and over again across this district. Number 1, housing. We need to make sure that we have more housing available at different price points. Everyone is looking for more housing options. Second, school funding. We just talked about it. We need to make sure that we've got equitable school funding. We're falling behind. We owe that to our children and the next generation. And third thing, protecting farms and the environment. I have a long career working on these issues. It is part of our identity out here. It is critically important to our future. I'm really glad to have been endorsed by the Sierra Club. I will get into the State House on before day one, because the work begins this fall, talking to folks, building coalitions, working with legislators, working with organizations, so that I can step into the State House and get going and put my foot on the gas. So I look forward to that. Thank you.
Amy?
I apologize. Could you repeat the question?
What do you want to do on day one if you get elected?
No, what do you ask?
With so many different issues, everything everywhere, how will you decide where to start and what to do on day one?
I am going to decide how to start by talking with the people that live in this district and hearing about their needs and what they want and what they feel like will work for them. I am running on constituent services, so I will also be in the forefront helping them with anything that they need. And when I step in the State House, it is all everything I do will be led by the people who live in this district. Thank you.
Final question before your closing statements. What can the legislature do to ensure that projects like the Greenfields Market expansion can be completed? Amy?
We just need to do everything to support the organization or the person that is trying to do the work. And how do I put this? When you take on a project and it is something that the municipality can help with, we need to make sure that we can help them on a local level. And then whatever the local level can't do, we need to make sure that we support them on the state level as well with whatever they need.
Corinne?
So I've worked a lot on the new Greenfields Market and Wilson's project. I think people don't realize there are a lot of different roles beyond just legislative and budget for these offices. Like Amy said, I do want to shout out constituent services is such a huge part of this work. Another big part of it is facilitation. So we have been involved in pretty much every project that's happening, infrastructure, schools, businesses, to be able to support. And a lot of times what that means is just developing relationships with people and helping them through a process, holding their hand through a process. For example, for Greenfields Market, Mass Development, which is an agency of the state, is providing significant funding for this project. So for over a year, I was on, weekly, every other week meetings with all the folks who are working on this project and holding folks at the state level accountable for making sure that the work is being done on these critical projects. So I would say that's definitely my view of this. If we're able to really expedite projects like Wilson's, the sooner we have more housing, the sooner we have more access to affordable food. And that's, the basis of why I'm running again is because I really want to connect people.
Laura?
So I know this project very intimately. I feel like it's a trifecta for our region. You've got economic development, and by moving into that property, it's going to open up more opportunities for the old Greenfields Market and maybe bringing stone soup into there. Just saying. It's also a housing project. It will create affordable housing at different levels, and that's going to be really important to the downtown development because you'll have all of people walking around shopping, going to Greenfields Market. And it's a food issue. Being able to expand what they're able to offer at different price points is going to be really important to our community. I've seen behind the scenes, I've written letters in support. I know how important it is to have mass development. They didn't move fast enough. There were some issues with leases. So as a state representative, I want to be there at the table helping to make sure that our agencies are doing what they need to do to move these projects forward. There's grant programs. That project only happened because of a very complex amount of loans and other things that made it affordable. I just got a call from the mayor the other day talking about the tip, and they're concerned about the project. So there's a lot of work that still needs to happen to make sure that happens, but I am committed to get it over the finish line and make sure that we have the economy that we deserve and the economic development that is going to spread across Franklin County. Thank you.
Time for your closing remarks, this time in reverse alphabetical order by first name, starting with Laura.
Thank you all for being here tonight. It is August. You should be somewhere else, maybe at the beach, but here you are because you care deeply about our communities and being part of our democracy. We've heard a lot of issues this evening. We've talked about farms and food insecurity, our climate, and just the rising cost of living, which comes across over and over again. These are complicated challenges, and if we could fix them in a snap, we would have, right? But I believe our communities have the answers, and we need to listen. We need to bring together those good ideas. We need leadership that listens, as I said, brings people together, and turns those ideas into action. For the past 25 years, whether I was an advocate at the State House or president of the Greenfield City Council, I've learned that lasting programs don't happen because one person has all the answers. It happens because people build trust, find common ground, and work together towards shared goals. That is the kind of representative I will be. I know what it's like to balance difficult budgets. I know what it's like to advocate for our schools as a parent. I know how state government works, and I know how to build coalitions that deliver results. Franklin County towns deserve a strong voice on Beacon Hill, someone who understands both the challenges our residents face and the realities facing our towns and town government. We deserve representation that will fight for equitable school funding, expand housing options, and strengthen our farms and protect our environment, and can build the resilient communities that will allow us to thrive for generations to come. I'm running because I believe that our best days are still ahead of us. If we choose collaboration over division, creativity over complacency, and hope over fear, I'm ready to go to work every single day, show up, listen, and fight for Franklin County. I hope I can get your support. Thank you.
Corinne?
I too want to thank everyone for coming out. This is, a time when it is difficult to want to keep showing up, and showing up really matters, and public service really matters. I got into this work because I wanted to help people, and I've been able to do that for the past 5 years in lots of different ways, from constituent services to larger systemic legislative, what's the word I'm looking for here? Legislative efforts. I have really enjoyed doing this work, and we've done a lot over the past 5 years. I just want to name some of the things that we've accomplished. We created the Office of Rural Affairs. We created the Office of Outdoor Recreation. We fixed Chapter 90, which is the funding for local roads, so that it not only is taking into account how many people live in your town, but how many roadway miles you're trying to maintain. We created the Unpaved Gravel Roads program, which allows communities to get funding to maintain gravel roads. And we really changed the attitudes of people in Boston who didn't really know anything about Western Mass. We've made people change these programs because they fell in love with us out here, and that's what I want to continue to do. This is my home. I grew up here, and I really hope that we see this as an opportunity to invest in the next generation, both people who are growing up here and people who are taking leadership roles. I think this is an opportunity for us to see more growth beyond just our own region, and I love Massachusetts deeply. I've enjoyed serving you for so many years, and I hope you will allow me to continue this service on September 1st.
And Amy.
Thank you all very much for coming and listening to me ramble. I'm very lucky to be sitting in the middle of two very smart women, and I just want to acknowledge how amazing that is. And thank you to Monte for emceeing today. I am not a politician. I am just somebody who lives here. I am a fourth generation Whately resident. I raised my 3 boys here in public schools. I've worn a lot of hats in the years. Those hats have always gone back to one thing, and that's serving the people in the community. I adore this area, and I want to make sure that we have someone that will remind Boston that we are here, we do exist. There are no dragons west of 495, and that we deserve everything that we deserve. I'm running as an independent, not as some gimmick. I am independent to my core, and that allows me to see issues and work with people through a very neutral lens. I think that this is an amazing area, and I think that if we put in the work, we can continue to make it amazing and make sure that everybody that lives here is able to live their lives 100% the way that they should be able to live it. Thank you.
Well, another round of applause for all the candidates. Thank you for stepping up and putting yourself forward. I think Amy can fact check me on this, but is it a purge year in the town clerk roles for voters? So make sure that you are actually still registered to vote, especially if you haven't voted in a while before the September 1st vote. Is that true?
But the state of Massachusetts requires, they call it mass inactivation. That happened earlier in the year.
So you might already be off.
No, so that just makes you inactive. That doesn't make you off. So if you're inactive and you come to your polling location to vote, you can still vote. It's fine.
Okay, so we won't worry about it.
Yes, but make sure you talk with your local clerk's office beforehand to make sure that you are all set. It is a very easy process. You don't have to go through a lot of rigmarole. You can just get back on the voter rolls. If you come to the polls, do you want me to keep going?
No.
Okay.
I think we got it. Thank you, though.
I could
Jen- we'll do
I could do elections all day.
I bet you could. Final words from Jennifer Core of CISA. Here, take my mic.
This is a lot of around and about to say thank you so much for being here tonight, for being a part of this process, and really thanks to each of you for showing up, for being dedicated to this public service, and for risking yourselves. It's a really nice and intimate way for us to be together in community, so we're very grateful. As a last reminder for anyone who doesn't know, the primary is on September 1st. So in-person early voting is happening the 22nd through the 28th. You can request a mail-in ballot now. The 22nd. Did I say the 22nd?
Yep, the 22nd is the
Well,
deadline.
thank you.
Yeah.
Oh no, my dates.
You got
It's
it.
okay.
You got it.
You just have to
And then the general election in November, early in person is something like October 17th to 30th, but correct
Yep.
me if I'm wrong. Okay. So let's get out and vote. Thank you all. For
Please
being here.
get out and vote.
And just one final update. Good news, the bathrooms are working. No, you just got to wait for the tank to fill up. Thank you all for coming. It was great forum.
Thank you.